First of all, a quick disclaimer must be made. If I sound weird at all in this video, it's because I'm currently suffering from acute bronchitis. I had the flu really badly a few weeks ago and now I have this. Have you ever had bronchitis? Because it sucks. You can't breathe properly, your throat feels red raw and you ache all over. So if I sound slow, sluggish or tired today, this is why. Hopefully it won't be too distracting and you can still get some enjoyment out of this quick video. Ugh, I'm feeling ill, so I won't pester you too much with all the merch and Patreon stuff. However, if you want to sign up and become a supporter, that would be great. And also, if you want to become a member on YouTube, you'll get custom emojis, and soon, when I'm feeling better, I'm going to start making members-only videos. They'll be different to my regular videos. I'll be on camera and it'll be unscripted, talking about a variety of things, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, enough shameless self-promotion. Let's get stuck in. So being sick over the past few days means I've been doing some reading, specifically this book here, Adventures in Cryptozoology by Richard Freeman. My brother bought this one for me, probably a couple of years ago, for either my birthday or Christmas, I forget which, and it's an amazing book. I definitely recommend getting it if you can. It goes into detail about a variety of cryptids, including some of my favourites like the bunyip and the Mongolian deathworm. But the topic of today's video concerns a rather different beast, the mighty dragon. This particular video won't be a full, in-depth profile of the dragon as a species, though I have actually done one of those before on my other channel, now inactive, called Cryptid Central, which I was working on before I hit upon the idea of starting Beware the Q. If you want to watch that video, you can find the link in the description below, but please prepare yourself for a certain amount of cringe. This was, after all, an early video of mine, and I was trying out some things that I thought were good ideas at the time. It's about 15 minutes in length, but my advice would be to watch it at 1.5 times speed. Now, the point of this video isn't to do a mega deep dive into dragon biology, but to talk about one of the most interesting points that Richard Freeman makes in his book, and that is how dragons in real life, in our reality, would have realistically been able to fly, and also why there are no dragon bones left in the ground. Now you might be asking how this could possibly be. Dragons are huge and heavy, far too big to get off the ground, and you may also be taking the modernist view that dragons simply didn't exist and were made up by the ignorant and primitive peasants of old. My problem with this view is that dragons are a part of the mythology of several completely different cultures which had no contact with each other. I guess it's possible they could have come up with the same ideas independently, but to me it just seems like a bit of a stretch. I think that perhaps dragons were surviving evolved dinosaurs, some of which developed the ability to fly over millions of years. Maybe they were hunted to extinction several thousands of years ago. Anyway, this isn't really the place for debating whether or not dragons actually did exist at one point in time. We're here to look specifically at how a dragon could fly, if it existed in what we like to call the real world. Richard Freeman puts forward a fascinating theory, one that's hard to debunk, though I'm sure many will attempt to do so. Feel free to leave a comment with your thoughts on this after watching the video. Anyway, I'm a big fan of the theory put forward in the book, and I will now read you an excerpt. This is pretty compelling stuff in my opinion, so take a listen and see what you think. Winged dragons. An interesting theory was put forward by the author Peter Dickinson in a remarkable book published in 1979. In The Flight of Dragons, Dickinson attempts something not done since Charles Gould's Mythical Monsters, to explain fire-breathing winged dragons as real animals within the known zoological framework. Impressed by the universality of dragon legends, Dickinson believed that they had a basis in fact. The main stumbling block was the sheer size of dragons, animals that, after all, were supposed to have flown. Looking at medieval reconstructions, he reckoned their weight to be around 20,000 pounds. In order to be able to fly by the muscular power of its wings, a dragon of this weight would need a wingspan of over 600 feet, far too massive to be real. And how could an animal possibly breathe out fire? These problems seemed insurmountable until a chance viewing of the crash of the Hindenburg. One day I happened to see on television an old newsreel film of the wreck of the airship Hindenburg, and almost in a flash all my ideas changed. As I watched the monstrous shape crumpling and tumbling in fiery fragments, with the smoke clouds swirling above, I said to myself, it flamed and it fell, and my mind made the leap to Jordanus. All the pieces I had been considering shook themselves into a different shape. I saw that the Hindenburg was not just a very big machine which flew, it was a machine which could fly only because it was very big. Other answers slotted into place. Dragons could fly because most of their bodies were hollow and filled with a lighter-than-air gas. Dragons needed an enormous body to hold enough gas to provide lift for the total weight of the beast. Dragons did not need enormous wings because they used them only for propulsion and manoeuvring. Dragons breathed fire because they had to. It was a necessary part of their specialised mode of flight. Dickinson's theory held that dragons evolved from large, fast-moving carnivorous dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex. They developed huge, chambered stomachs that they filled with hydrogen gas, thus achieving flight. The hydrogen was formed from a mixture of hydrochloric acid in the gut and calcium from the bones of their victims, and controlled partial digestion of their own bone structure. The calcium taken from their own bones was being constantly replaced with a regular intake of limestone. This may explain the dragon's legendary love of lairing in caves. The vast body was filled with this gas, and the animal acted, in essence, as a living dirigible. As any chemist will know, hydrogen mixed with oxygen is highly flammable. This is where the dragon's most famous attribute, its fiery breath, came into play. Dragons needed to breathe fire in order to control their flight. To rise, they filled their gas-bag stomachs, and to descend, they burnt off gas by breathing it out, possibly with a chemical catalyst, as fire. The fiery breath doubtless doubled as a formidable weapon, a punishing jet of flame with which to destroy prey and as a display to other members of its species. A similar weapon is employed by the bombardier beetle, Brachinus, that spews a jet of boiling chemicals at its enemies. The two chemical components are produced from different glands and do not reach such high temperatures until it is outside of the beetle's body. The wings were formed from the extended rib cage, much like that of the modern lizard Draco volans, a small gliding species often called the flying dragon. These were covered with a bat-like membrane and were used in navigating the animal in flight. Dickinson also believes that he could explain some of the more esoteric aspects of dragon legends. The cult of dragon worship would have sprung up from primitive people's fear of such a terrifying creature. The famous dragon hoards would have been built from offerings made to appease the monsters. Dickinson says that dragons would have used gold as a nesting material, as it is non-combustible and fairly soft. Their fondness of virgins may have its genesis in human worship and sacrifice of high-born victims, perhaps born and raised specifically as sacrifices to dragons. The theory also provides a good reason why there are no known dragon fossils. In life, a thick mucus lining in the stomach walls kept the powerful hydrochloric acid needed to produce hydrogen in check. After death, the mucus lining was no longer generated and the acid destroyed the animal's body. The creature literally digested itself. Hence, no dragon bones and no dragon fossils. It is for this very reason that Dickinson's theory is impossible to prove. In effect, he is hoisted by his own petard, and his wonderful theory must, for the time being, remain just a tantalising possibility. Now, what do you make of that? It is quite possibly the best explanation of how dragons would have been able to fly, or at least the best that I have found so far. Do you know of a more convincing theory? Do you agree with the theory of dragon flight put forward in this video, or are you not convinced by it at all? Leave a comment with your thoughts and we'll get to the bottom of this mystery together. And, if you made it to the end of this video, leave a comment with the phrase dragon flight to let me know you got there. Also, please remember to hit the like button if you haven't already done so, and click the bell icon to be notified of future uploads. This has been Beware the Q, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.